Okay.
Topic 3.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah, which we've never done before.
Oh boy. I'm gonna give the little background here. So they asked me to do a topic, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm still not quite into K-pop. Like, I can't think of a K-pop topic.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, you can do like a movie or something. And then I'm like, at first I suggested Love Exposure, which is a Japanese movie. And I'm glad they said no, because that would have been a slight deviation from like just the Daebak, the Korean theme. So then I was like, oh, there's this horror film that came out like a year or two ago, and I've been meaning to watch it. It's called The Wailing. And the Korean title is literally the name of the town, which I like more.
Goksong.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that more because the
Wailing's kind of a dumb name, to be honest.
Yeah, because everything that everything that characters do in this movie, the town very much supports. It had to do with the type of town they lived in. But yeah, anyway, so we all watched it on our own time. And now we're going to talk about it. Let's give our quick spoiler-free take, even though I already ruined it.
It wasn't. I think you're fine. So for me, I liked it. Like I said before we started filming, horror movies don't really work on me. So I knew going in it's not gonna get that part of it's not gonna really affect me. But I still enjoy some. I enjoy a good horror film, even though they don't really scare me.
Right.
But most horror films aren't very good, so I don't usually watch them. I don't know, I'm just seeing the bad ones. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It was very much a Korean movie, especially the way it ends, which we'll get into more in spoilers. But okay. I've seen a decent amount of different Korean dramas and thrillers and that type of stuff, and it very much fits that style that they like to do. It was weird though, because when it started out, this is literally my only notes on the movie before I just got enthralled in the movie and stopped writing notes, is it starts off almost like a comedy. There's very little horror in the beginning, and there's a lot of comedic dialogue and stuff. So I thought that was a nice way to ease you into it. But yeah, overall I did enjoy it a lot.
Cool. Should I go?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, we'll keep the same order.
All right. I really loved this movie. I thought it was a perfect experience, but after the movie ended, once I started thinking back on it, when we'll get into spoilers, there's one particular thing that I think really does not work in context of the rest of the film and its ending. But that's the only blemish. I thought, I went to see Hereditary, which was considered one of the scariest horror movies, and it actually deals with some of the similar themes as this film does, but this film does them way more effectively. And it's not only a lot of the scariness comes from just the total devastation that the film, the total downward slope
which
that it's going.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, for Korean movies, that's just how they work. They're always very depressing.
But the performances,
it has to do with their culture,
right. Behind all the K-pop, there has to be something that
exactly.
contrasts it well. Yeah, but I loved all the performances. There's a child. I'm always worried about child performances, but this girl,
the daughter was really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I really like the pacing. I was worried that 2.5 hours would be too long for the movie, but surprisingly, it kept on holding up. There were moments where I totally hated the characters' decisions, but I understood. They justified it. Yeah, and so
that's a sign of good writing. You don't have to agree with it. It's just you have to be able to rationalize. In that sort of situation.
It's also a sign of a good horror movie, because usually their characters' dishes are garbage.
I mean,
in bad horror movies.
Going back to freaking Jurassic World isn't a horror movie, but Jurassic World is literally Humans Are Stupid, the movie, and I'm just why are you doing all this stupid?
Right.
I never had this problem.
Should I press the button?
No.
Oh my god, that ending is so bad. It's so bad. But what else did I want to say? I really like the choice of music. It's very sparse. Music is almost only used during scenes where they show big scenery, or maybe near the end, some of the tenser moments they choose to add music. I really like it. And this movie makes it clear at the beginning that it's not going to be a jump scare fest. There's a scene that I actually thought is deliberately telling the audience that, it's not this kind of movie. And so because I hate jump scares, they actually get me, and I always feel cheap. Yeah, so like because the film communicated that, I was able to like let the jump scare fear go and away, actually let the tension and the suspense rise, and it did work. And finally, there's the grotesque imagery in this movie. I think were really effective.
Yeah.
All right, so for me, trying to think of, I think this is the first Korean movie I've ever watched. Not even joking. I've never watched any other Korean movies.
You haven't seen
one of these days.
You
never seen Snowpiercer?
No.
I keep trying to get them to watch Old Boy, Kevin. Neither of them have seen Old Boy.
I know. I need to get to Old Boy, and I need to get to like.
I hear A Tale of Two Sisters is really good. I don't know.
The
Handmaiden. The
Handmaiden. I've heard a lot of good things about.
I have to watch that downstairs though.
That'll surprise you because it doesn't follow the traditional Korean movie trajectory.
Oh, really? Of a straight downward path?
Exactly.
I have no exposure to that. I have not really exposed to like sort of just like super.
No love exposure.
So how was this as your your first Korean film?
I guess just as someone that doesn't really do well with horror, and specifically like religious-based horror, because I'm Catholic. So yeah, this is my worst nightmare in terms of movies because all of this is very believable to me.
You should see Hereditary. That it might really get to you.
No, I can't. Like Cooper, our friend's just been like bugging us to see it, but I'm just like, I will not sleep if I go see that.
Wait, did they like it?
Like Cooper, did Cooper like it?
Yeah, he liked it.
Yeah, Cooper liked it, I think.
Yeah,
right.
so
and
then he messages us after watching this. He's like, "No, I hated that movie."
Yeah,
really?
He could go either way. He has really weird movie taste.
I'll
everything.
Okay, I saw it twice. It didn't scare me, but I thought it was very artful. So that's my Hereditary take.
Like this movie didn't scare me necessarily with like just like jump scares or whatever. I'm glad that it didn't resort to that. But just like I'd say the mood and just sort of like the morbid atmosphere it set up was just very disturbing, and it's something that's very hard to pull off in horror movies because it's so easy just to go like head first into like blood, guts, and everything. While it had that, I'd say it was more purposeful than like for shock value, if anything. So it's definitely a movie that was very well thought out. It's also a movie that's definitely. It's not afraid to show its influences because obviously it's very heavily influenced by stuff like Exorcist and like very like high profile. I mean, like it knows like the director knows of the. Oh my god!
Sit.
As a motorcycle goes back in the background.
Yeah.
It definitely knows like the sort of history of horror and just like definitely does a good homage to it. Or Asian cinema just does it like I love how they put their own sort of twist on, I guess maybe more conventional sort of American tropes. But yeah, I'd say like despite it being very kind of long and maybe a bit confusing towards the end, it's enjoyable overall. Would I recommend it to everyone? Not necessarily.
No, this is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, I mean not just that. It's just it's. I guess kind of like Nolan, it's a movie where you have to sort of pay attention, and I mean, I'd say the one sort
Nolan's
of I guess
overrated.
Yeah, the one sort of like thing that you like. It offers a lot of it provides a lot of questions, but doesn't necessarily provide a lot of answers on everything. So, I mean, as someone that's maybe a bit of a perfectionist or someone that likes like being so detail oriented or wanting the resolution to everything, that sort of annoyed me a bit. But if you can overlook that, I'd say. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, and I mean, as my first Korean movie, oh man, just I want to. If it's like this, like
it's all like this.
Oh man, that's a whole sort of like pool I have yet to explore. Basically, just Korean cinema and Korean like dramas and television and everything, and I'm hooked now. Basically, I need to go watch all this
cheesy.
Stuff. Yeah,
so good. Cooper did say Hereditary is his movie of the year so far.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh! Whoa, mine is now it's 24 frames, but we'll talk about what you said about like how other horror movies also have like the blood and guts and stuff. Like most horror movies have those, like even with The Exorcist, there's like the 1 or 2 or maybe 3 scenes that are like the pit, the pillars. This movie just dishes you with like scenes every 10 minutes.
This was like Saw, where it's just like we're gonna have all of the gore.
Or no, I mean, if I was to make any sort of reference in terms of just like, I guess, mood and sort of like setting, it'd actually be Resident Evil 4. Like, because if you really the setting of
the first third of it in the villager,
in
the village.
Yeah, it's Resident Evil 4 deals with very similar. I guess subject matter where you're just like going into this town that's dealing with this like super like crazy infection and everyone's going crazy. Obviously that's more zombie-ish than this is, but
this got zombie-ish like midway through.
Okay, whatever.
That's not spoilers.
Yeah, we'll just I wouldn't say. I have very strong, but it's okay.
I'd say that maybe that was a bit to its detriment, going a bit too zombie-ish, but we'll get to that in spoilers. So Jacob.
So for me, I think definitely the strength of this movie is like for me was the dialogue was really, really well done, and it had a lot of character, I guess. Like every character had their own personality, and they felt like a real person. And I don't know if maybe this is like
or non-person entity.
Yeah. But like it makes you feel like this is a person you know, and for me, I guess kind of. Living in a rural area myself, like it seemed the way that we like I guess interact with each other here as well. Like everybody knows each other in the village and stuff like that. One thing that I did notice was everybody speaks in dialect because it's down in the south of Korea. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like the name of the movie and the village, it's actually the like the county that it takes place in or whatever, Gokseong County. Yeah, it was good. I agree with Nate. I thought it was interesting the way that it like is very comedy-ish in the beginning, and it kind of like eases you into the movie, and then it kind of just like it doesn't like instantly drop. It kind of like gradually just eases you straight into it. Yep. Like so yeah, I thought that was cool. I liked that it wasn't all just jump scare, and it made you care about the characters and what the story, and it has you like theorizing the entire time what's going on.
Yeah, that's a big Inception effect for me, basically.
Yeah, like I enjoy when movies have me thinking the entire time and they have my brain going, and to see a horror movie that does that, I really, really enjoyed that. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Excellent. Yay.
Okay. I think we could get into spoilers.
All right.
Let's go deep.
I spent no expense in putting the spoiler tag up on the overlay. You'll see it later.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just because for audio listeners, this is your spoiler warning right now. If you have not watched this movie, we're gonna blow the shit out of all plot points. So skip to like after this if you want to listen to the rest of the podcast or whatever.
Yeah, go listen to. Use the timestamps to get to part 4.
Listen to Kevin's Odyssey in K-pop.
Yeah. Super Kevin's Odyssey.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. I think let's let Kevin take the lead.
Yeah,
he does the movie reviews more than we do.
I don't really know.
I mean, I kind of want to talk about the positive stuff. Stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of because the big thing on my mind is the one plot hole that I just couldn't get it out. But I just. What I loved about this film is how much of it, like if you maybe read the script or read it on paper, there are a lot of things that are a little tropey, like the sort of like the seance / witchcraft stuff. But for some reason, none of the tropes in this movie felt like tropes. I believed it. It's the way they're introduced, the timing they're introduced. Like the character's already in such desolation, and then say like the old mother comes in and it's like, yeah, we gotta summon hire a shaman. And then I'm like, yes, that makes sense. Yeah. For some reason, it just works. I think there are some other things that like, even like the...
Maybe because maybe we were so used to seeing like those type of like seance, like all this like witchcraft type stuff in terms of through a Western lens. Maybe I'm thinking like Scarlet Letter. It's like or not Scarlet Letter.
Letter. What?
God!
That's not a horror movie.
Oh God! What's the one with like the Salem?
Scarlet Witch. No,
wait, Salem, the Crucible.
Yeah, Crucible. Where like it's just like where maybe that's the I guess that's sort of like the progenitor of like like all this like sort of witchcraft and like all this sort of like you're everyone's turning on everyone sort of thing. So like maybe because it's done through like an Asian like an Eastern lens. That's what sort of we don't see that as often.
But what else? Yeah, something that really makes it work though is like with all of these other films, when they talk about seances or like what is it, the medium in like a traditional ghost movie. They always have that spooky or abnormal vibe to them. The shaman
is very personable.
Cool guy.
He like starts smoking when he's talking to the dude, and he's just like, he's just a normal dude.
Just be like, hey, I told you to bring the soy sauce here. Don't question me. And it's just so great.
Exactly.
There's nothing like special about him. Per se.
They didn't. They definitely didn't like lay into the trope of like, oh, they gotta be like all this like really weird and like old and decrepit, and like they speak in like weird like tongues and all that sort of stuff. This guy was just normal. He didn't start speaking the word tongues until he changed into like the actual. They were actually doing.
I was
ritual.
Yeah, well, and then even then he wasn't using tongues. He was literally just screaming for 15 minutes.
Like,
the scene where he does the actual like ritual and it keeps cutting back and forth between the Japanese dude and him was literally like 15 minutes of just screaming.
It's so great though, and he has it was
so good.
Like every time he swings a sword, he just do some.
He's doing some weird dance.
I was looking at some review, or like some people were complaining about that scene. It's like, it went on way too long, and I'm just like, there's purpose to it though. You have to build up to it.
Yeah,
it's setting the whole like feeling of what's going on, and it's that ritual scene. The first one was like actually one of my favorites. Like it's like the shaman is competing with the Japanese man. And it seems that way at least. And then it cuts to the girl as well. What's happening with her? And like I really loved the sort of the way that progressed. Like it was cutting back and forth between what's happening.
Like with Star Wars, they talk a lot about like sort of just like the planes of bad, like how they during the end, like the climax of Star Wars movies, it's often like there's a space battle.
There's a lightsaber battle.
It's like that sort of
lightsaber battle, ground battle, space battle.
Yeah, that's tiered approach, and like it's as weird as it is, it's a very similar effect where they're sort of just like bouncing between the sort of the three different, I guess, like scenes.
If we're talking Infinity War, which is still fresh on my mind. That too. That's basically the entire movie.
Just like three tiers of action in that sort of way. Exactly. So, I guess just one point I wanted to add or elaborate more on that I've sort of touched on in the non-spoiler section is definitely, I feel like the religious element of this was very well done. Very well done. And I mean, I guess I could probably relate to this more because I'm practicing Catholic, but I love the relationship, or I love how at the very beginning of the movie it starts with a Bible verse of Luke 24, chapter 24, verse 37 to 39, and it off the top of my head it's talking about like I'm like flesh and bone and that sort of thing, and also I just like it so effortlessly weaves the religious like undertones or overtones into the movie so well. Like the very first shot is of like the Japanese man like literally like it's he's like
putting a worm
like just a very big thing.
Amazing,
a very big thing in like the New Testament of the Bible is like it's like Jesus, he's calling for disciples to be fishers of men, and just like that whole sort of concept plays so well into this movie, and it's just like it's just like this whole like decrepit like twisted take on it, and like it's revolting and yet enticing at the same time, which is like, again, I've never really done, because I feel like, I guess just Catholic or just like traditional Christian like horrific like exorcism and that sort of stuff, it might be overplayed, but this is such a very unique take on it, and I think maybe not having, because honestly like I haven't watched The Exorcist, the only like I think I watched the
it's okay.
God, what's the one that's like basically like the new Exorcist with the
Conjuring.
Yeah, I watched Conjuring, but which was pretty good. So I mean, I guess that the trope is sort of played out in Western. Again, it's sort of played out in Western media, but this is such a fresh take on like how they approach religion and demons and all this sort of stuff. And I guess that stuff is what makes it scary, because like
if we're talking about tropes, one of the things that I never bought into was like when people are possessed, their body's twitching. Just because maybe in the older films it never really worked. You never really see the bones or anything. Something about it just doesn't. It just makes it almost comical. Every time someone's twitching, I'm like, holy crap!
It's no, the one scene, or like in the hospital, the one guy.
They literally kill him from twitching.
His like collarbone like breaks. Oh my god!
No, and I love. My favorite part of the movie is the fact that after they show that scene, they cut to a scene of Korean barbecue, and I'm like, that's the transition there was hilarious.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to relate like the actual like basically it's like meat like all like, core elements are like relating it to that. Oh man.
Right.
Like, very appetizing.
And when the daughter's like doing that, like,
that was the daughter's performance was all right. So what I was gonna say anyways was the daughter's performance was honestly like one of the best. Like she was possessed throughout the entire movie, but it's like this this little girl like acting like a I guess like a disrespectful old man sort of thing, I guess, kind of thing.
She's just like swearing a lot of
and obviously, the violent element and stuff like that. It just, she played the character very well, I guess. Like, and even in those parts where she's struggling during like the rituals and stuff like that, like it was very, very believable.
Yeah, what I thought was super effective was that she was the main comedic relief at the beginning.
Yeah,
where she discovers the parents having sex in the car.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes.
She's like super sassy, but then once she starts, showing symptoms, I'm way more invested.
Yeah, it's literally when sort of all of this like the curse or whatever like comes directly to the main character's home. It's crazy. I mean. They played it surprisingly well for like it might not have been the most, I don't know, like it could have been, I guess it's predictable. It's like, oh my god, my daughter, or like somebody that I know and love like very much is like infected or just like going crazy too. Like that's definitely a trope that's been played out in a lot of movies where like that's what sort of drives the event home. But I'd still they pulled it off well regardless. I think.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool how, like, very soon into the movie, I was like, oh, this main character is the perfect person for us to follow because he's not quite the bumbling idiot, but he's not, like, the brightest policeman either. He gets sick when he sees bodies. He's not used to this stuff. And I think his reactions near the beginning kind of helps us connect with what's going on in the village very well.
And his development also, just like how basically you see him go from like, oh, he's like kind of like laid back. He's like, that's not protocol. He's like lifting evidence without gloves and everything. And afterwards, he's just very calculated because like, again, just like the fact that it has to do with his own daughter just drives the point home so immediately. And just like everything about his moves are just becomes so much more immediate and dire. Whereas he was just very chill and laid back and very nonchalant about things.
Yeah.
Speaking of like what we're like how very on like we're seeing what is going on like in the village. One thing I really, really appreciate about this movie is that like from the beginning it looks like it's some sort of like zombie outbreak disease sort of thing that's gonna go into. But
warts and all.
They show the mushrooms.
But it's
that's right.
But they don't turn it into this huge pandemic that's sweeping the entire world and like it's like it's concentrated on this village. This village is being terrorized, This particular family is being terrorized by, the devil
something
or whatever,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like the red eye effect. It's like subtle, but it's really good. Yeah. That's the first scene where I thought he was going to jump scare like onto the rock.
Yeah,
and then
he does it. He just
he just kind of slowly comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's a letdown. But then like it actually prepared me for the rest of the scenes. Like there's a scene near the very end where he's like slowly opening a door. Like I trust the film that it's not going to jump scare, but the tension was still up. And there were jumps. Like sometimes a crow would smash a window. But first of all, it was never a loud boom in the music, and second of all, it never felt like it was something that could not happen in real life. With other films, there could be the cat that jumps out of the corner. Like even that's a little played out. Every accidental jump scare in this movie feels like it could totally happen in reality.
It's weird to say that like it's very grounded for a movie that has to deal with demonic zombie type thing.
Absolutely.
It's a very interesting sort of take on it.
To touch on the like small little jump scares, like I think those actually served a really good purpose of like setting the mood for the actual setting of the scene, like and the character is feeling uneasy and it's kind of like twitchy, like looking around, like you don't know what's going to come out, I guess,
right,
and whether anything is or not. Like it's like almost like false suspense, I guess. Like you don't know if something is or is not coming out, so you don't know whether to like anticipate something. And it kind of carries through most of the movie like that, actually. So
I agree. I thought it was the one moment that kind of took me out of the movie was like when he suddenly decided to stop the shaman, and I'm like, oh wait, why? But then it made sense. But then he like carried his bunch of work dudes, and they all went
to kill the Japanese dude. There's like, we're just gonna like form a gang and go beat the hell out of this whole Japanese dude.
Right. One scene that horrified me was when the shaman started the nosebleed.
Oh no, the nosebleed.
The character's name is literally just like the woman or like no name.
Oh no, I was gonna say, do we want to get into the actual like
ending
main point of like the thing that makes you think, like the whole point of the movie? So like it starts out.
Can I start that actually?
Well, I was just gonna go through the actual plot. And then we can discuss.
Okay, because the part where it starts to be like plot twisty or whatever, I want to cover like what I was thinking, I guess.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So starting off, obviously, like you think there's some sort of zombie outbreak or whatever. Then some random dude that runs a meat market's like, oh no, I saw the crazy Japanese dude. It's him. He's crazy, and I saw him like eating a deer naked in the woods, and he attacked me or whatever. So you're like, okay, maybe this Japanese dude's like a demon or whatever.
Just to quickly interrupt, because I'll totally forget this. The second time the same dude rolled down the hill, it was almost.
The amount of people that fall down hills in this movie is hilarious. They're so bad at walking down hills.
The freaking lightning bolt.
And then he gets struck by lightning randomly.
I don't know. Within the chaos, it actually worked.
It did.
It was almost amusing, but I'm just like, oh shit, it's only going to get worse.
Getting killed by lightning is probably or getting struck by lightning is probably like one of the more tame like things to happen in that movie.
Right.
Exactly.
In retrospect.
Okay.
I really like the wife's reaction where she just says something like, "Oh, it's not the or it's not the."
Good thing he took all this tonic, so he survived.
Tonics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
So you think it's the old Japanese dude, and then you get introduced to this woman. While they're investigating the second attack.
Well, she throws rocks first of all.
Yeah, she's just throwing rocks at him for like 15 minutes, and then she eventually gets close enough to talk to him.
Side note, she's really pretty. I need to look. I forget her.
She is very pretty.
I need to look up all the cast name, honestly.
But
being very.
The guy who plays the Japanese dude, he's such a good actor. He's been in like the Love Exposure director. He's been in a ton of his movies. Like Why Don't You Play in Hell? That's a strong recommendation.
He was in the live action adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh boy,
really?
Wait, what?
Play?
I have no idea. I was just googling his I was looking up his IMDb and was like, what?
All right.
So you get introduced.
Josuke's grandpa.
You get introduced to this woman, and she tells us like, it's the Japanese dude, like he's evil, like, but she's weird, like you think, I don't know, something's going on with her. She talks about this old woman telling her, which never really gets resolved, I don't think. Not that I can think of.
But then she made it up, whatever.
Yeah, but then for like an hour and 15 minutes, you completely forget about her because they don't bring her back for a very long time.
And it's all about the Japanese.
And it's all about the Japanese dude, and they're figuring out what he's doing. They go to his house and find some weird ritual stuff.
When they introduce her, you think she's just another one of the villagers, and she's also somebody who's seen the Japanese guy.
Yeah, just gossiping.
Yep.
And then I'll let you progress until
she disappears, which is like one thing, but you're like, maybe she just left like abruptly. Like it didn't necessarily mean she was like a spirit or anything. Then like for like an hour and 15 minutes, it's all about the Japanese dude. They investigate his house, find this ritual stuff, find a bunch of pictures of victims.
The one thing I need to bring up, again, sort of tying this to religious elements again, which again will tie into the end. I love how the only person that's able to communicate with the Japanese man is a priest. Again, just like tying it, like the only,
so
like the religious person is the only one that's able to communicate with
See, I just watched it, so I didn't even have time to process all of this thematic stuff.
Like so I watched this like over 4th of July weekend, and like I've just been laying at night thinking about all of this stuff.
Yes.
So the one of the police dude's nephew is a priest, and they bring him along because he can speak Japanese. So he's the only one who can really communicate with him. So yeah, they investigate him. They find a bunch of creepy stuff. His dog attacks them and they kill it.
Oh boy.
But then, yeah, like stuff just keeps happening. That's when the main character's daughter starts getting possessed, and they find her shoe in the Japanese dude's house. So you're like, okay, he definitely has something to do with it. Like he's definitely evil. He's some sort of spirit, or he's casting spells on them or something. Like he's definitely a bad guy.
Yeah.
But then, after probably an hour, all the shaman stuff we talked about before. They
all the shaman stuff. They put a rake inside some minion zombie.
The police.
henchman.
One of the police dudes dies, becomes a zombie, and they fight him off with a rake. But then so they form. That's actually they form a mob that we talked about.
Oh, the dude's face gets peeled off.
So they form a mob to go kill the Japanese dude. Once the shaman ritual didn't really work because it was actually that's something we should point out. So when the shaman was doing his ritual, he actually started killing the old Japanese dude. So you're like, okay, he's definitely evil because you're like pounding stakes into this idol of him.
That's the one plot hole. Yeah, I don't understand why.
That doesn't really make sense.
We'll get to that. Let's finish the
once we get through the whole end.
Go deep.
But after that, he's like, okay, you're killing my daughter while you're doing this. Stop doing this ritual. We'll just go kill him the old-fashioned way because we can go kill ghosts. Like, we're just going to get a group of 5 guys with, 2x4s and rakes and stuff and go kill
them. The funniest thing is, for the longest time during that scene, they were just hitting with blunt objects. I'm like, I saw some shovels there. Where did that go?
Exactly.
And then finally you get the rake, and I'm like, okay, that's very satisfying.
Well, and then they get the shovel, and the zombie breaks the shovel in half with a show of strength.
That's great.
So they go kill the old guy, or they try to go kill him, and they chase him down the woods.
So let me stop you there.
Yeah.
So at this point, when they're chasing the old guy, he seems much more helpless.
Yes.
Right.
At that point, that's when I'm started to think. I even wrote in my notes. I'm like, weird theory. What if the Japanese guy is doing his rictuals? He's also a shaman. And he's trying to heal her. But the reason he was being
bad guy.
Destroyed during the rituals or whatever was because the actual demon was attacking him. But then that fell apart.
Well, when I watched it, at first I was like, oh no, his body's very weak because of the shaman ritual. But it took me until when he fell off the cliff and he was weak, the camera started focusing on him sobbing. That's the moment where I'm like, what?
So that's the other big plot hole for me is by the end of the movie, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Why was he crying? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't. That was a big plot hole for me. But so they chase him through the woods. He hides by kind of hanging off a cliff and falling into the bottom of it and hiding. But it wasn't a big fall, so it wouldn't have hurt him or whatever if he was human. And he starts sobbing. Which you're like, okay, so he is actually a good guy. I feel like at that point you see him sobbing, you see him weak. You're thinking, okay, maybe he actually isn't the bad guy.
A really quick way to change that is if another character in the movie was present with him.
Yeah, exactly. That he is doing it to make a show.
But this is just for the audience watching, and I just don't like it when
that was
do
the problem. That was the one problem I have with that is if someone saw him weeping and they were like, oh, maybe he isn't a bad guy. Then sure, it was him lying to them. But he just doing it to the camera didn't make any sense.
Though then again, he was right underneath them though. At the time, so
but none of them.
It could have been that. But it could have been
he deliberately hid himself to be at the very edge of the cliff.
So we'll keep going. Unless you have anything else to say, Jacob.
No, it's just. No. I was gonna say it's just weird. I guess.
Yeah. He's hiding, and then so they're like, okay, we can't find him. We're gonna start driving back home, and then his body hits their car.
That I was like, what?
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, so something's really going on here. So he wasn't the bad guy.
And then
I didn't even realize it was his body at first. I was
and they throw his body off the cliff. Because they don't want it to look like they killed him, and you see the ghost, the lady behind on the cliff. You finally see the woman again for the first time in an hour and a half. And you're like, oh, she killed him, so she's evil. She is the bad guy here. Well, he was actually trying to stop her, and save everyone.
Right,
which
because
I thought
the shaman calling him.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that would have been to be honest, just getting to the end, we've hinted enough he's the bad guy. that was actually a little disappointing to me because it's such a trope that it's like, oh, it's the Korean movie, the Japanese guy's the bad guy because we hate Japanese people.
Building on that, that's one thing early on I said is I wonder if this is supposed to have any parallels to like the Japanese occupation of Korea.
Yeah.
Where they're just, I mean, if you specifically...
Handmaiden.
I don't know.
Go watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you guys watch this on Netflix. I have the Blu-ray. I don't know if the translation was the same, but when they'd call him, they'd use a English.
They call him
Jap.
They
Yeah,
call him
they say
Jap.
Jap.
So like, I don't. Is there Korean like a derogatory term for Japanese people?
I don't know because it sounded like, from what I heard, they just said Ilbon Saram, like, which is Japanese person. Okay. I don't know if they were actually using a slur, or I didn't notice one.
Yeah, but that's just a very interesting sort of thing. Like, again, and it kind of caused a bit of controversy, but like, xenophobia. Yeah. Of course, the foreigner is like the one that they don't trust.
Yeah, is the bad guy. Yeah, and I thought it would have been such a sweet twist if it was actually the Korean ghost or whatever that was a bad guy.
It'd be a bit more sort of. Like meaningful, but I guess he sort of explained it as like he didn't necessarily mean it to be that way. I guess it's just sort of they wanted it to be like they wanted the demon to be something that they couldn't necessarily communicate with.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Bringing it back to like the scene where like at the end, very end, the priest goes into this cave and finds the somehow still alive Japanese man just like sitting there in like a rag and everything, and like just the whole conversation is like. That might be like one of the best scenes I've ever witnessed in all of film. In all of film, because just again, it ties back to like the Bible verse at the beginning. Like he's just like all this stuff about like all this religious element about like how this priest is like self-doubt and all this sort of stuff. It's like, oh, you already think of the demon and everything, and
like he's like, why should I tell you what I am? But you already think I'm a devil.
And that's like literally that's just like the way that like Jesus.
I can't change your mind.
Like Jesus would speak to people is like, oh, like he speaks in a lot of these riddles and that sort of thing, and like the lot he talks like when he starts slowly reaching his hand out and like he refers to that Bible verse at the very beginning. It's like I can't be like I'm not a ghost because I'm a flesh and blood and everything. And if you pay attention to his hand, there's a hole there in Catholic doctrine that's called stigmata, and there's. Like you could obviously debate it, but there have been people throughout history that have recorded like they've had the wounds of Jesus where like you have the thing on the side and you have the nail holes in your foot and your hand and everything, and so he's luring the priest into like a false sense of security and everything, and then afterwards when you see him in his full like demonic form, like I can that image.
Honestly, I feel like he is the devil. He's not just a demon. He is the devil.
Yeah, and I mean like that image is burned into like my mind for the rest of my life. Like honestly, like when I close my eyes in the shower, that's what I see. Like it's that like haunting of an image, and then friggin' it's like it's so they they're definitely paying attention to like how like sort of Catholic doctrine works, because again it's like that's how they say like the devil is gonna try to like misdirect you and try to think like, oh, he's a good guy and everything, and like afterwards you know it's too late. Like it's too late. It's just like the attention to detail they paid with that just incredible. Like it's like it's that vivid of an image that I can describe it like to the T. Just like every word and every like the lighting of it was perfect too. Just like this dimly like
all the candles around him.
Oh my god! Just I guess as a side note for lighting, this definitely like I know this came out like 2016. I know it's a bit too recent, and who knows how they originally filmed this in, but this is definitely a candidate for a movie that I want to see in. Not necessarily just 4K, but HDR.
I was gonna say I want to check if it was, because it looked amazing on my TV.
Yeah, the cinematography in this movie was incredible, especially those like landscape shots that they'd use that to reset or set scenes perfectly. Like again, if they had HDR lighting where it'd just be like the contrast. Oh my god!
Yeah, I want to check if it did or not.
I love the way the camera is always slowly moving. It just adds to the eerie atmosphere, even at the beginning of the film.
Jacob, I know you wanted to get a point in.
So I'm wondering, this is kind of just something that entered my mind. The fact that the old man ended up being the devil himself, you know, the parts where during the ritual, like he gets hurt and he starts bleeding and stuff like that. And the part where he starts, and the parts where he starts crying and stuff, I'm wondering if maybe, you know, because he's the devil and he's trying to like infect the hearts of people, maybe he is aware of the audience watching the movie.
That's a way to
don't do that to me. Oh god,
that's a way to justify it, but I don't know how
but I don't
strong
think it's
that
worth
is.
it.
Yeah. I agree with you.
It is not marked as 4K or HDR, but it looked amazing on my OLED.
It's amazing.
Like with the
cinematography.
colors and everything.
Oh my god.
I'm thinking of other scenes that like trick the audience but work.
Yeah,
For
I was gonna say, do we want to
yeah.
get back into the summary and go through?
Oh right, you're
because we skipped ahead to the end, but we haven't got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So yeah, the crazy ghost lady kills the Japanese dude, and you're like, okay, the Korean ghost lady is evil. And he was trying to save everyone. Then you get even more confused because then there's a scene of the shaman walking past her, and that's where the projectile vomiting and like the crazy blood loss out of his nose
That's disturbing.
happens.
So
And you're like, okay, so now I'm really confused because either she's good and the shaman's evil, or like she's evil. It's like
Well,
the
I
shaman
love the moment when
and
he
her are
went
not
back
the
to
same
his
side.
place and the candle blew out on its own and his reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
what we think at the time is like, oh, there's a force of evil that's so strong that it even surprises the shaman. But it turns out it's actually like the virtue and the good side.
Like that was I was actually really surprised at that part where he started bleeding and like actually looking scared, because before the shaman he was always
so confident
and,
cocky,
stuff like that, and like this is the first time we see weakness out of his character.
Yeah.
Oh man, and that sort of relates to the like he ended up being in league with the Japanese.
So then you know the shaman and the Korean lady are not on the same side.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of unclear of what side everyone's on. The shaman guy's like, no, I'm going to Seoul. I'm out of here. This is too much for me. And then his car gets attacked by moths, and he turns
the
around.
visual imagery
Basically,
it brings it's like the plague.
It's like the plague.
Egypt
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like
all these references are incredible.
Thanks for dishing out all this stuff. Also, now that I know you're Catholic, I can't wait for Love Exposure. Get ready. It will change everything.
Just fucked up Catholic movies.
So he's like, he gets attacked by moths or whatever, so he just turns around. He's like, apparently I'm not allowed to leave, and that's obviously the devil was keeping him there, which we get to later. But then the main character goes to tries to go back home to save his daughter, because he's like, okay, something's wrong or whatever. And the Korean ghost lady stops him, and she's like, no, if you go home, you kill everybody. I've set a trap. It will protect everyone. But if you go there, you ruin the ritual.
And then there's the thing with the rooster crowing 3 times.
Yeah, there's a rooster crowing 3 times.
Straight out of the Bible, where like he did. Like, right after or I believe right before Jesus was crucified, he told Simon Peter, he's like, Simon Peter, do you love me? He's like, oh, I love you. He's like, I'll die for you. He's like, before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny me 3 times. And then like, again, that just plays right into it, where like she's sort of like the good character, and she's like, oh, don't do it, that's the 3rd time. Like, like, again, just like all these subtle references they make to it, and again, it might escape the larger audience, but definitely like, maybe Korea being a very religious country,
Korea's very Christian.
They definitely recognize the overt symbolism in all of this.
But what matters is the craft is so good that it works on both levels.
You don't even need to know all this, and it's still such a good movie.
It's very hard for movies or any type of medium to sort of incorporate any type of religious aspect to it and still appeal to a secular crowd. But I'd say this movie did a very good job of that, where the imagery sort of speaks for itself, where you don't necessarily need that background knowledge. It just, if you have the background knowledge, it just sort of enriches the experience so much more.
So another thing about that scene where she's like, you need to wait, Like,
Yeah.
I actually, at that point, I was still, like, not on her side, so I was like,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
her,
you're like,
just
no, go,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
At that point, I was
well, yeah,
just,
that's
no,
And then
she's
she like
fucking
holds
with
his hand. There's that camera
Yeah.
pan. We're like, oh no, she's
Yeah.
holding his hand now.
yeah,
then she
she's
just
a real person.
And then no, you wait and you see, and then just you. But the thing is that you know she's a real person, but the sort of maybe it's the lighting, but like the glint in her eyes and like the paleness
she's
of
very-
her skin. You know
Yeah.
you know that she's not like a natural human being.
And how she hides in the shadow for so
Yeah,
much
exactly.
of that scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so while she's holding him there, the shaman calls him and was like, "No, don't listen to her. Like, go, like she's evil. Like, she's gonna ruin everything, kill your daughter." So yeah, eventually he gives in and goes there, and it was awesome because like there's this whole ritual set up, and he crosses the threshold, and like this plant dies. I think I don't know what type of plant it is, but it's hanging above the door. Yeah, it looks similar. It's not mistletoe, I don't think, but yeah, so it's hanging above like the barrier to his house, and yeah, when he walks through, it dies. And she just like you just see the despair in her eyes or whatever because they cut to her. And yeah, you find out the little girl this whole time has been possessed and like freaking out and stuff, which we kind of glossed over, but we talked about her acting before. So, and he walks in.
Well, one scene that I've been thinking of is the scene where she's like holding a screwdriver or something, and then you see like the neighbor babysitter just like body laying. But the first thing we see is like her just, we don't exactly.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh my god, what did I do?" And then, but at this point, she's just like cold, calculated. Like you see, like it's just like there's almost nothing left of Hyojin, the daughter. Like there's nothing left of her humanity left. And at the end, when he goes to see, he's just like weeping like uncontrollably because he's like the wife and his mother-in-law are dead, and he's crying out to Hyojin, and I'm pretty sure. I think I read the synopsis. Apparently, she ended up stabbing him too. What the fuck?
She did. They don't show it, but
she killed him.
She kills him.
He's dead. He's dying.
He's dying at the
dying
end.
words.
Yeah, because he's saying he's like whispering it. Yeah, he's like,
God.
"It's okay."
Yeah.
But so Hyojin kills her mom and grandma, and he walks in to see that, and he's just like sobbing there, crying, talking to her, calling out her name. And this whole time, this is when the Japanese guy finds the priest finds the Japanese guy in the woods in a cave and finds out he's still alive. And so you're like, okay, so he is a ghost, like he is not a shaman. And this is where you find the whole realization that he's the devil and she was the Korean ghost or shaman, whatever she was.
Like a good one.
She was ghost,
good.
I'm pretty sure.
And so then Hyojin kills her dad, which you don't see on camera, but at the end he's just whispering her name, and like you can clearly tell he's dying, bleeding out. And then then the shaman, he's packing up to leave, and like we kind of glossed over this, but he drops a box. And I actually, when he dropped the box, I thought the mask was gonna be in it. The mask that they found.
That mask freaked me out.
Because that mask was creepy.
Yeah.
And so they found a mask in the Japanese dude's house. Yeah. But they also found a room.
I think the mask, what that served the purpose of was like just like showing the viewer like once again, this guy's Japanese. This guy's like a kabuki mask.
So in the Japanese dude's house, they found like a room full of pictures of the victims.
Yep.
So the shaman dude's packing up to leave, and supposedly all the pictures were burned by the Japanese guy, but the shaman dude has them all. So you're like, okay, so the shaman dude was
another
in
detail
working
cahoots.
together.
Like the camera that the Japanese man used at the end when he's the full devil and he uses to take a picture of the priest is the same brand of camera that the shaman used. Konica Minolta, Japanese camera brand. So again, there's just like all these details in it.
Oh really? I didn't. I didn't notice that.
I wrote that down.
Minolta cameras became Sony's cameras now. Yeah, basically.
Oh my god! And just like the thought that they put into all of this was just. Oh my god! There's just it's so like layered and everything.
Yeah. The whole movie from like halfway through to the end, you're constantly in question of like which one is evil, which one's good, who's a ghost, who's real, or who's a real person. Like, what the hell is going on?
Right, and they don't really feel like reveal. Like, they don't feel like the typical twist, like gotcha, because this literally deals with like
different things,
reality and people and who to trust and faith.
the movie developed at a much slower pace. It's weird because the end of it kind of felt like nonstop, but it didn't necessarily feel like, oh my god, like sort of like a maybe more action oriented horror movies where it's like, oh, they're just like beating up all these zombies and all this sort of thing. It's just like it's a literal definition of a slow burn. It was like, I guess like the beginning of the movie had like kind of like noir elements where there's just like like finding these crime scenes, that sort of thing, and like that slow burn sort of feel definitely like goes throughout the movie. I guess it's just a difference in sort of how Asian cinema is with tone necessarily, where I feel like American cinema is just like everything needs to be on an extreme, where it's just like where this is it was a lot more subtle in its emotions, and maybe that's what made it more realistic, where because you can definitely you're more able to identify with these people as human beings and not as just like characters on like the TV screen.
Right. It's also different because like American cinema, in horror movies, there's always the exposition. They always try to say a lot. And Hereditary, actually, one of the weaknesses is does that too. But this movie, it feels like everything is
everything was revealed. Revealed naturally.
Through
exactly.
imagery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just well written dialogue where they're not explicitly saying straight up, "I'm the evil ghost." Like. Yeah.
All right, Jacob, go.
So for me, from the point where the guy, he gets his friends together and they go up to the mountain to kill the Japanese guy to the end, that was easily like the best portion of the movie. The part where you're like, you are on the edge of your seat, like you have no idea what's about to happen. You're like speculating in your head. Everything is like going on. And with the plot twist, it seemed like we got the plot twist right then. Like, oh, the Japanese guy, he's not evil. And then it kind of untwists itself. You're like, no, it's exactly what you thought it was. But like to a even worse level. Like he's not a ghost. He is the devil himself.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you guys looked into any of the theories like regarding this?
No.
I've looked up one that was really interesting.
I looked into so many. I guess I'll go. Jacob, you can finish up, and then I'll go into it.
So what I was gonna say, lastly, was like the part at the end after he's revealed his true form to the priest, where he's got the camera and he's taking the picture of him. Like that's easily the scariest moment in the whole film.
Oh really?
Yeah, in my opinion, like it's. Well, like I don't really get scared of stuff, but like it didn't really scare me, I guess, but it was definitely the most like, creepy and powerful image in the film, in my opinion.
Wow.
I think that's the strength of this movie. It scares you through, I guess, imagery and not necessarily through like with shock value. But
I actually, see, this shows why Hereditary isn't scary for me, because I didn't find that part scary at all. I actually found the first half of the movie to be overall more scary.
I was gonna say, for me, the first time that Hyojin really starts being possessed was the most tense part of it for me. Because I also didn't get scared either.
Also was up there
I don't get scared either. But when she's like starting to act like not even when she's like freaking out and swearing or stuff, but when she just gets silent and like she has that cold like killing like murderer look in her eyes.
Again,
because she acted so well. Like
again, that plays into like the sort of. Like in Fisher's Man, she's eating fish, and then gluttony, and like all these sort of like.
There you go.
There's just like all these details into it. But anyway, with the theories, the one I haven't had any chance to like sort of develop my own, but the ones I've been looking into, the really interesting one is that it goes with the Japanese man is possessed by the devil, and then the one that you're seeing is he's possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
And then when you see like him get like thrown into like apparently when she's doing the ritual, when they're doing the ritual at the same time as like the seance for Hyojin, he's transferring the devil into that dead body, like like the one that ended up becoming a zombie. That's where the devil ended up being, and that after that he was like a regular human when he wakes up. You know how
that would explain why he cries. Then
and then he's just like a regular human being. That doesn't necessarily explain how he gets thrown into the truck off of the cliff, but at that point this theory is under the assumption that he's dead, and that the person that the priest sees at the end is the actual devil, and that he's just taking the form of the Japanese man. I'm just like, I have chills thinking about it right now.
Wait, that makes sense, because I wonder what the dude in the truck was all about that entire time.
Yeah.
Oh, I
thought, because what I thought it was he because that was before we find out he's evil or whatever. Yeah, I thought that was when I thought he was good. So I thought, oh, he's finding these people that are dying from this possession and stopping them from turning into zombies. And so he was doing a ritual to stop that dude from turning into a zombie. But then he got attacked by the other shaman's ritual, and that stopped him from doing his ritual, which made the dude turn into a zombie. But that makes sense too, that the shaman drove the devil out of him. And the devil got transferred to the zombie dude, and so he was human again.
Yeah, it's so
and that would explain the crying.
Yeah,
like
that
his
definitely
emotions are
makes
more
a lot
human.
of sense.
Yeah. Like, there's some other ones, like, I don't know, that, God, I can't think of them right now, because that was, like, the most, like, I guess, like, striking one out of all of them, but, yeah, what did you, I guess, what are your guys' sort of, like, explanations or, like, sort of theories?
Apparently there's one that says, because I what surprised me was, like, the devil that shows up at the end is actually, like, the Christian devil.
Yeah.
Because, like, the entire time there was, like, the shamanistic thing going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there was some Reddit post that said, like, the devil at the end might not actually be the devil. It could just be a reflection of the deacon's lack of faith. And that's what's being projected. So there's a chance it's not even the Christian devil. There's a chance that whole thing is fake too.
Oh my
And it's actually some sort of witchcraft or something. Yeah.
Yeah, my main theory was that one that I mentioned earlier, where like the devil is actually aware of the viewer and is trying to.
I mean, that would surprise me, it being a meta sort of thing.
I wonder. Yeah. I want to look back at it, because what would make that scene really strong is if there's a moment where he like kind of looks in front of the camera but doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make it him outright look, but if there's a moment where he's like crying and he kind of just zooms through, that would make it like even more powerful. But
and
I don't know.
It makes sense because like demonic sort of like devilish sort of things they're very like omnipotent to like their surroundings or like that'd be that. And honestly, stuff like that like scares the hell out of me, because like we're like the actual like seeing like demonic shit like change or whatever, like show up in media or whatever. Because like I used to be in a sort of like religious group sort of thing, and basically like I'm very familiar with the stuff that they like talk about in this, where basically if we're like gonna do something with like praying, you'd have to cover up all the mirrors, because you don't want like they think like, oh, the devil might show up in like the reflection of the mirror and stuff, or like how if you go into woods or whatever, like it sounds crazy, but I've seen people like get possessed or whatever, like they like have crazy like mental breakdowns, and it's just like scarring as a child or whatever. But
right.
Yeah, it's just definitely like that's why I guess that imagery just like sort of hit home for me way more, because I've seen this sort of stuff happen before, and it's just it's very disturbing. It's very disturbing as a Catholic, but oh man, it's just, I guess that's just what makes it enjoyable, is just like it hits so close to home for me.
Right. Yeah, that's cool, I guess, but it's also I should apologize for making you watch this.
I wanted I like watching these sort of like movies, despite it like hitting home for me like in this sort of way. But I guess we're sort of exhausted. Like, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should start close up. We have another topic, and we're what, like two and a half hours in. Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess at this point I'm going to do one final plug for my movie review channel.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Just because I think I've decided the movie I want you guys to watch.
You can plug it at the end too.
So. Okay, cool.
So basically, I want these guys to appear in my movie channel. It's called I Want Breakfast. And because the channel's not that popular, you have to change the search option to like channels instead of all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then you'll find it.
It's hard to find.
It's a picture of a sun on a TV screen. And once you see all our thumbnails, you'll realize why it's like that. But the movie I want you guys to watch is one of Peter Jackson's early films. So before Peter Jackson directed Lord of the Rings, he was an low-budget horror director.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you guys seen any of the movies?
I've never seen anything. I knew about him, but...
All right, here we go. I'm going to recommend Brain Dead or Dead Alive. Yeah, I think if you search Dead Alive, you'll get better results. Because, like, how do you watch these movies usually?
This I watch on Netflix, but...
I find it online usually.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a chance that if you search Brain Dead, you'll get a version where the audio and music overlaps itself twice, like within 3 seconds of each other. So search the American title Dead Alive, just Peter Jackson Dead Alive.
Yep. Yeah. Brain Dead, also known as Dead Alive in North America. 1992.
Yeah, get ready.
Way before Jacob was alive.
Yeah, you're
6 years
before I was alive. Yeah, but
I was the only one born when this movie came out.
Okay, I mean, are we gonna give the Wailing like any like numbered score or just?
Yeah, do we want to score
I
it?
mean, I have a numbered score that I usually use.
Okay,
So.
we'll follow your lead. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
you go.
I guess we should do it out of 10. So like,
yeah, just straight out of 10.
Oh man, but because of our discussion, I want to give plot hole a pass. The whole
the theory might have fixed the.
I feel like I need to watch. No, I'll stick with my original thing, and then I might rewatch that scene and then change it. But for now, like, so what I do usually is on the app I use Letterboxd. It's like out of 5 stars.
Yeah,
and then what happens is like. I do like a half star and then I like tweak it. Is there like a low 4.5 or a high 4.5? So this is so I'm like, this is definitely a 4.5. It's not a 5-star because of that one plot hole. And I gave it a 4.4, which could also be like an 8.8 out of 10 if you want to give a 10 rating. So that's my rating.
Okay. So yeah, if we want to do a 100-point scale.
Oh yeah, there you go. 88 out of 100.
Yeah, 88 out of 100. I'd probably give it probably around like an 85 then.
Cool. Nice.
Because I did like it a lot. I can't knock it for not scaring me because that just is a thing for all horror movies. I feel like it's not fair to knock it. That it was definitely it was definitely tense. But actually, like, talking about all these theories and stuff was like more like scary than the actual watching the movie. Probably because I watched it in the morning this morning. Yeah, and now it's like midnight.
Watched it like so.
I watched it
during the day, but
in such a way that I guess that's sort of like what makes it scarier is that like that kind of ties into the movie where like talking about things or like them like gossiping about like all these things that they can't explain and trying to rationalize it is what makes it more scary in a way. And
that's like Hereditary for me. The movie didn't scare me at all, but talking about it,
okay, so that's kind of like I'm not like scared right now or anything, but it's definitely like adding that tension. But yeah, so I would probably give about an 85.
Cool.
If I were to give this out of 100, I'd maybe give it like a 91 or something like that. Just because I feel like I
tiny bit better than a 90.
Yeah, it's just like I give it. It gets great marks for both character, the development of like the plot, cinematography was excellent. And again, just like it hit home so close to home for me as a Catholic. So again, just being able to relate to it so well is what put it over the top. I mean, it's not perfect. Again, like I feel like, despite it, like 2.5 hours kind of went by like that. But I mean, in some parts it did feel a bit slow. But I feel like I might have spoiled myself for the rest of Korean cinema because I put this at such a like, this might be like my pedestal, and then everything else after this.
If you like, that's what I was saying.
I think this is one of the better Korean films in general.
Yes, it was.
Like, even with Old Boy, I have little nitpicks with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Old Boy affected me on another level than any other movie.
I agree.
For like a week afterwards, that's all I could think about was how depressed it was. Because like if you think this movie was a depressing like downward slope, Old Boy is like a 90-degree straight drop off a cliff, depressing, and it's amazing. None of
the friends I showed it to actually felt that way.
Really?
Maybe it's I like hyped it up.
Okay. See, hopefully I'm not hyping it too much, but for a week after that movie, I was depressed and constantly thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm at 91, Jacob.
So for me, the out of 100 scale point that I had in my head was probably 94. Because I actually really enjoyed this a lot. Like, this is probably actually easily one of the best movies I've seen, to be honest.
Really?
Like, it's the best movie I've seen all year.
Yeah, well, like, because
2018 is so weak. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, like, we were talking about that, like, at the Oxtongue dinner. Like, I wish I watched more movies. Like, I really love watching films, but like, same. I don't go to the movies that often, and I don't, sit down and watch films, often enough. Because I usually stick to, like, series and stuff like that, because I can just watch it while I'm eating lunch or whatever every day and just, like, work at it. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's something I'm going to do this coming semester is just try to, like, sit down and watch a movie at least like once a week.
Wow.
Maybe get a movie pass and go to the movies every
Hey, if you need recommendations.
Yeah. I'll come to you.
So cool. It averages out to an 89.25. So an 89.
Wow, all right.
So it is a truly Daebak movie.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's truly Daebak movie. Yeah.
Yeah. If we round it out to a 10-point scale, then yes, it is truly Daebak because it'd be 8.9. If we keep the 100-point scale, it would round to 89.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be truly Daebak.
Yeah. We'll just go back to our 100-point scale or our 10-point scale.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested in seeing the thoughts of if any of our viewers ended up watching this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely comment.
Please comment. And
PG
please,
or
comment.
talk to us on Discord too.
We'll tweet them or something.
Kevin
join the
should
Discord.
join the Discord. Yeah. So we can. I think we actually have a section for movies, so
yes,
we can use that section to talk about it. Or we don't, but we can make one right now.
We can make one right now.
We'll make a channel for movies. Yeah.
I think what made this stand out for me is like the 1940s style like instrumentals like that you do in like old cartoons and movies
it's basically like Cuphead ragtime like type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was really really cool, and her voice is incredible. I hope she